Yeah, well, I can also give you my take on the lights. Should I?
Do I get you back again?
Yeah.
Let's talk about lights.
Right. So the thing about the lights was that also they were not a decoration. They were not a paste on, at least in the CM-1 and 2. I think in the CM-5 it was actually a separate panel, and I actually have a story about that too. But the whole idea, and this is the whole form follows function credo, was that it couldn't be a decorative add-on. It had to be the machine itself, and that's why we took the status lights that are associated with each single processor chip, moved them to the front of the board, so that, and then made the doors translucent so that the lights would be showing through, and not transparent, because we wanted to preserve some of the mystery of the machine, but translucent so that you would have this flickering glowing from inside. So the idea was you were literally seeing the inside life of the machine. You were watching the flashing lights between its neurons, so to speak, its electronic neurons flashing back and forth. And the sense of the machine being alive was very important. And actually with the CM5, I came through Boston in 1991, and it was only, I think, 2 weeks before the CM5 was supposed to come out. And Danny said that he felt like there was something missing on the CM5. And I said, well, when's it coming out? And he said, in 2 weeks. And it's like, well, you can't really do much right now, can you? But I spent some time talking to him about the machine and looking at the machine to try and understand what it was that was lacking for him. And I finally said, I think the problem is you've got these strips of lights on the outside, which you can then program just as you can the internal lights on the CM5, but they're separate. They're not part of the machine itself. And if you look at the boards inside the machine, then there's all of these. There's all the status lights. Why didn't you just use the status lights, or make the status lights visible from the outside? And he said, well, it had to be in a Faraday cage and blah blah. And I said, well, yeah, but a Faraday cage is not solid. You can just use a grid or something, and then you can see the lights through, and maybe you can't see them all exactly, and as you walk past it, it's occluded. Some of the lights will be occluded and then pop up again, but that makes it more alive. And I don't know, I actually have not ever seen a CM5 in real life. So I don't know. Did they ever? I suggested that he then make the side panels of the CM5, those broad side panels, translucent again, so those internal lights would be visible, and you would get that flickering. And I don't know if that was ever done. Probably not.
I don't know. I mean, but if you take sort of the history of lights on machines, of course, the sci-fi things were always there, but the connection machine had lots of lights. And then
but they were internal lights. This is really important to me, because people talk about it as decoration, but it was not decoration. It was programmable, so you could write it, as a ticker tape. So it says, "I blink, therefore I am," or it gives the Dow Jones Industrial Average or whatever. But they were an internal, actual part of the machine, and not a paste-on decoration.
Oh, absolutely. Then on the connection machine Model 1 and Model 2. The lights actually went to the processor chips. There was a pin on the chip called LED, and it basically drove, and there was a trace that went from that out to a little buffer that then drove the lights, and it indicated activity in the computer itself. It was looking into the brain of the machine. It was looking into the activity, the pulse of what was going on. Unfortunately, some programs looked great and some didn't, and that was part of the problem for the marketing messages. But when we were programming it sort of for real, we made sure that it indicated something about what was going on. We even made it so that there were certain errors that we could sort of see of where they were, because there's so much machinery. All of it was supposed to work. It was a fault-tolerant machine. It was the sort of thing that, okay, it has a little bit of brain damage and gets a little bit worse, but then the lights would sort of turn on to go and indicate, hey, I've got problems over here.
I wish there were video recordings of those, but probably not, is it?
Don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So the thing is that those lights were there. The electrical engineers were building in those status lights anyway, and so I took an existing part of the design and just made it visible from the outside. But you know, each board had this huge long connector, the whole height of the board, and the people assembling the machines said they also set up the lights when they were assembling the machines to show whether or not all the pins were ins, and if not, you know which part of the board you should press to make it. So it is very important to me that people understand that the lights were not add-on decoration. They were an integral part of the machine that was just made visible so you could see the inner life of the machine. And I think that's what really set the CM-1, CM-2 design off from all the other machines out there with blinking lights, if you want my personal opinion.
Well, that particular lights of yours carried forward. So in the Internet Archive, we have black machines that have lights. They're blue now, that are wired to the hard drives, and they blink when somebody's using it. It's like books that blink when they're being read somewhere. Every time somebody uploads or something or downloads something from the Internet Archive, a light blinks, and these are on display in a former church. So people can see this, and it gives sort of a life. And all of this came from the design of the Connection Machine Model 1.
The lights live on.